All right. Welcome to the 22nd ever episode of the Failing to Success in Multifamily Show, a podcast where we appreciate, discuss, and reflect on the setbacks real estate investors have had leading up to their success. Today, I have the absolute honor to have Arn Cenedella. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes, you got it perfect, man. Yeah.
Beautiful. Arn Cenedella on as a guest. Arn Cenedella is a real estate broker and investor with over 44 years of experience in the real estate industry. Arn founded Spark Investment Group in 2020 as he transitioned his single family rental portfolio into multi-family properties. Arn currently manages and operates a multi-family property as a general partner and sponsor of over 818 units with a total value in excess of $92 million. In addition, and I'm not done yet, Arn is also a limited partner in over 500 units located in the Southeast and Mountain West. Well experienced investor that we have here today on the show. Now, I'm sure that behind all of his success is sacrifice, dedication, and a whole lot of hard work. So I can't wait for you all to hear his journey, his successes, but most of all, and the reason why we are all here today, his failures as he continues to reach his goals within multifamily. Arn, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, Tenny, thanks so much for the great introduction. Hopefully, I can live up to about half of it. But uh, we've kind of connected on social media and interacted for the last year. This is our first time to be able to sit down face to face, so to speak. So it's a pleasure to meet you. And hopefully, our discussion will help your listeners on their real estate journey. And so, excited to dive in and discuss whatever you'd like.
Me too, honestly, really excited and really happy that we finally get the chance to connect as well. I know that you're very active in the industry. Um, and I can't wait to peel back your story a little bit because I know that it's going to bring a lot of value to our listeners. So, Arn, I know I did a fairly bad job at introducing you, so please let us know who Arn Cenedella is.
Yeah, so sure. So first of all, let me say I was pretty typical American kid. Parents told me study hard at school, go to college, get a degree. Ended up getting a master's degree in chemistry from the University of Michigan. But then I kind of decided, I'm not really sure I want to be a research scientist. And my father was a real estate broker in Menlo Park, California, which is on the San Francisco Peninsula, halfway between San Francisco and what was to become Silicon Valley. So I went to work with him in 1978, so literally 44 years ago. And he taught me the residential brokerage business. And in addition, he was a very shrewd investor. And one of the first things he kind of taught me was while the real estate brokerage can produce income, the real key to financial security, financial freedom, some kind of wealth accumulation is investing, right? So the brokerage can create some income. You then invest that income into real estate and kind of take a long-term perspective. And I just kind of modeled his behavior. He was a single family home investor. And so I started buying single family homes in the Bay Area before they became $1 million a house. So it was a little easier to buy back in 1980 than it may be today. In addition, I invested in the Austin, Texas area and also in Charlottesville, Virginia over the years. And over the 35 years as a broker, I accumulated a single family rental portfolio, also worked with many clients to help them buy rental or income property, both in the Bay Area and elsewhere in the US. So I've been in real estate my entire adult life. And 2014, my life partner and I decided we were ready for a change. And we moved to the Carolinas. We moved to Greenville, South Carolina. I'm about 90 miles from you, just down I-85. And we've been here since November 2014, so almost 9 years. Continue to invest here. And then right when COVID hit, I decided to kind of transition to multifamily investing, and there are a lot of reasons behind that. So I've been at the multifamily kind of aspect of real estate for about 2.5 years, and starting to make some traction and enjoying kind of learning a new facet of the real estate investment game. Love living here in the Carolinas, and happy that we're safe from Hurricane Ian that kind of blew through here the last couple of days. So that's a little snapshot. Longtime real estate guy, came from California, moved to the Greenville, South Carolina, and that's what I'm doing now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Arn, you are actually the most experienced guests that we have had here on our show by far. And so I'm super thankful that I'm even talking to you right now. So thanks again so much for coming on. Man, a lot to unpack there. The number one aspect of your story that pops out to me is the fact that you were on track to basically take a completely different path in life. You know, you studied to become a research scientist, right?
Yes.
And so my question to you is, you know, you could have gone and continued on that path, and you could have gone to any path, really, right? But you chose real estate, and you saw the benefits of real estate. And you didn't have to go the real estate route once again. But what made you so passionate? What made you see the benefits of real estate and eventually get into the industry at the time?
Sure, great question. And so number one, I was kind of born and raised in California, and so went to grad school at University of Michigan, went to college in upstate New York. So returning to the Bay Area was something I wanted to do from kind of an emotional level. It was home, and I kind of knew that I'm kind of a freewheeler. I kind of like freedom. I like kind of creating my own schedule, kind of marching to my own drummer. And so real estate, of course, is very entrepreneurial. There's many different avenues you can pursue. So there are a lot of ways to get involved in real estate, and it's just a matter of trying a few and seeing kind of which fit best for you. So there's a lot of different ways to get into real estate, and so it offers great flexibility. And you know, I saw the success my father was having with his investing. And if you study people and read books like The Millionaire Next Door, variety of financial educational material, you know, there is kind of a common theme. Most wealthy people created that wealth through real estate.
Yep.
It's a fairly repeated story. So real estate allowed me the freedom to kind of create my own business. It also, when my kids were young, allowed me to coach their soccer and baseball teams. So I really appreciated the freedom and flexibility real estate allowed. And of course, that meant sometimes I had to work Saturday and Sunday. And to me, Saturday and Sunday is no different than Monday or Tuesday. And for a corporate employee, that's very different. They grind Monday through Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday, they kick back or relax or have fun. So I appreciated the flexibility. It was clear to me real estate was a good vehicle to create security for myself and my family. And I think the other thing I really liked about real estate requires you to kind of get out and about in the community, and you're interacting with buyers, sellers, property managers, closing attorneys, construction vendors, landscape folks. And so I kind of really enjoy the social aspect of it. It's all about networking, as you know, and to contrast that with my life as a research scientist, which would be down in the bottom of the lab by myself, tweaking some instrument, kind of devoid of social interaction. I just kind of decided it wasn't for me. And so the real estate opportunity opened up for me. And yeah, 44 years later, I'm still doing it, and I still enjoy it. So that's kind of where it's been. And I'd say for your listeners, real estate can help you create the life you want. It's not going to happen overnight. I think you have to take a 5-10 year time perspective minimum. But if you start today, if you're 25 or 30 and you start today, buy that first rental house, accumulate 1 or 2 rentals, maybe start going to bigger properties. I promise you, in 5 to 10 years, you're going to see the benefit of that investment, either from cash flow and additional income, and also in equity and net worth growth. Yeah. And then you turn around 15, 20 years from now, you've actually accumulated something significant, which then allows you the freedom to kind of really create the life you want. So real estate's a great vehicle to do it. I'm not saying it's easy, but if you get started and work at it consistently, I think you'll see the results. Even with potential economic problems right on the immediate horizon, being in the business 44 years, I kind of know the overall trend is up. Yes, every now and then we have a little disruption and problem, but we all know the price of housing is going to increase over time. Population's growing, as somebody famous once said, buy land, they're not making any more of it. I forget who said that, but it's true, right? So in any case, real estate can be a pathway to create the life you want.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've always said that for the everyday person, real estate is the number one vehicle, just like you said, to achieve the life you want, to have time freedom and financial freedom. And that's the reason why I've also gotten into it, 2.5 years ago, is to have the time freedom and the financial freedom to do what really matters to me, right? To really focus on my why. And it seems like that was the main driver for you as well. Now, I want to dive into how you ended up transitioning from single family to multifamily, right? So you accumulated a sizable single family portfolio, but then you decided to transition to another asset class, which is now multifamily, right? So explain to me first of all, how that transition was for you, right? Because it's two different worlds. And second, what was the biggest challenge in making that transition?
Yeah, great question. So generally, I managed or self-managed most of my rental properties, at least the ones that I owned in my area where I was living. And for me, being a real estate guy, I was always out and about. So if I had to show a rental or meet a contractor, it's different than if you're at the corporate office 9 to 5, you can't leave at 2 o'clock to deal with the problem. It's just not going to work. But in real estate, you're out and about. So the management was a little bit easier for me. But the truth is, over time, let's just say I enjoyed kind of the day-to-day management less. And so I started transitioning from self-management to professional third-party management. And one of the things with multifamily is typically the cost of property management decreases as you get bigger and bigger buildings. So on single family houses, property management could be 8 to 10% is kind of the nominal rate. Multifamily, mid-sized projects, you're probably talking maybe 6%. Large buildings, you're probably 3 to 4. So there's some economies of scale in less expensive property management. And also, I'd say maybe to some degree, more professional property management, because the property management companies that do multifamily, that's kind of all they do. Where I think sometimes on single family, you'll have a realtor, and I'm a realtor, so no offense to any realtor, but you'll have a realtor who's selling, but also doing property management.
Yep.
And he doesn't really have a business structure set up for that, right? He doesn't have employees, doesn't have servicemen, doesn't have a bookkeeper, things like that. So better, less expensive property management. The other thing is I took a look at the equity that I had in my single family rentals that had built up over the years. And I'm not at all being critical of buying single family property as a way to create wealth. It's a tried and true way to do it. Just kind of depends what you like. But for me, I looked at the equity I had in those properties and the cash flow that was being generated off those properties. And really, it was only 2 to 3%. And I knew I could do better in multifamily. You could take that same equity and get maybe more like 6, 7, 8% cash flow. So higher cash flow on equity multifamily properties provide. The other thing I would say is we know there are housing affordability issues. There's a lack of housing, particularly affordable housing. When you drive around town, and you'll see it in Charlotte, a lot of new Class A apartment buildings being built, but they're $3,000 a month, and who can afford them, right? So they're not building any affordable housing. And so apartments are kind of one of the most affordable housing options for people living in America.
Yep.
And so there's always going to be this demand for affordable housing. And then the one other factor I would say is our contemporary society is far more mobile than it may have been 30 years ago. It's far more global. People move more often. We have the work from home. We have the hybrid work. The dream for somebody my age was to buy the big house in suburbia on the cul-de-sac with a large lot, and we're going to stay there 30 years and raise the kids. We're going to put down roots. Where I think today's 25 or 30-year-old, their dream may be a year in Barcelona and then a year in Thailand, who knows, a year in New York City, and then go back to Des Moines, Iowa. So we have a more mobile society.
Yep.
And so the renting aspect fits better with that than owning. So I saw a lot of demographic trends going to multifamily. And I guess the final point would be, I was kind of bored with the single family, done it 40 years, great, no problem. But I was a little bored and wanted to kind of learn a new aspect. And it is different, but it's also similar because it is residential. So I'm not buying any office buildings. I don't know office buildings. I'm not buying retail centers. I'm sticking in residential. That's what I know. And so going from single family homes to apartments isn't as big a jump as going from single family homes to warehouses may have been. So it's still residential. So the transition was relatively easy. The other thing I would say is I relied on podcasts like yours and others to educate me. It's a great source. It's free information, gives you a great insight into the business, helps you make connections and networking. And that's really a key to growth in the multifamily space.
Very, very well said. Very, very well said. And I think what resonates with me the most is when you said economies of scale, right? multifamily is a great way to leverage all aspects of a traditional single family home portfolio, right? Everything is at scale. You can essentially save money and make more money long term with it. And I think what I really like about multifamily too, and you touched on that, is the partnerships that comes with it, right? Because a lot of the time when you buy these large apartment buildings, you're not necessarily doing it on your own, right? You have a team around you, and a lot of the things that you may not necessarily like doing or are not good at, you get to hand that off to one of your team members, right? And essentially have more time on your hands to focus on either growing your portfolio or doing whatever else you want to do, right? Go fishing, right? So I think if for the listeners out there, if you have a single family rental portfolio and you self manage, there will be a time when you may not want to manage it by yourself anymore, or you just can't anymore. I think the multifamily asset class, if done correctly, can allow you to scale at a much quicker pace and also have um, less on your plate at the same time. So, very, very well said. And
Yeah.
mhm,
So if I could just jump in, so on
yeah,
the scale, so for example, in Greenville, we own a 43 unit complex. They're all 1 bedroom units. The units are identical. So think about this.
mhm,
When we got a unit turn to do, we
exactly.
know exactly how much countertop to order.
Yep.
We know what toilet, what light bar, what mirror, what vanity to order. We just have it with Home Depot. We call Home Depot and we go, we need 2 more sets of Carolina Commons, and they're on the dock. So uh, because you can imagine if you're renovating a single family house, each single family house is different. So
Different.
every time you renovate one, you got to kind of reinvent the wheel.
Yep.
Where with apartments, typically you got 1 or 2 floor plans, maybe 3. You do it once or twice, and now you got the roadmap. And so it helps your contractors go more quickly. You can order materials at bulk, so that kind of helps. And then the other part, just to piggyback on what you're saying, the partnering aspect. Um, I love chasing the deals, talking to the brokers, talking to investors, negotiating the deals, networking with people. But frankly, I'm not a great property manager. Okay. And so I acknowledge my weakness. And it's also, I didn't enjoy doing it. So I'm probably not as good at it, right? You're good at things you enjoy doing because you're happy to do it. You're excited about doing it. So for me, as I got into multifamily, I was a little hesitant to take down deals. And I had a friend here in Greenville who has a residential property management company. And for about 2 years, I was after him. Come on, Brian, come on, let's go buy an apartment building. You can run it, I'll find it, blah, blah, blah. And it took me about 2 years to finally convince him to take the leap into multifamily. And since then, we've kind of taken off. And when I first approach him, he goes, well, I do single family. That's what I like. That's what I know. I don't need to do multi. Now that he's done a couple multi deals,
He's got the
he
bug.
understands his life's a lot easier too, because he can go to one location and they got 3 renovations going on, not having to drive 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there. So, and the other thing is, it's fun working as a team. I get enjoyment out of it. I can tell you do too. And so you find people that you like, that have similar values. You each bring your expertise in. You provide your strengths. You help others with their weaknesses. And it's one of, what's the expression? the sum is greater than the total of the parts or something like that. So you
Yeah.
create the right team and you can actually do some big things. So 100%.
Well said. Well said. When I was actually transitioning into multifamily, I was told that networking was probably the most important thing in the industry. And luckily, I read Who Not How. I'm not sure if you've ever read that book, and that really
Great book.
opened my mind to the, not only the benefits of multifamily, but how you can also be successful, following the guidelines of Who Not How within the industry. So, very, very well said, Arn.
And
Um,
that's a great book for your listeners. So I
yes,
would check it out. It gives you a good idea of kind of how to find the right partners to put the team together.
absolutely. And I will link the book in the show notes for anybody that wants to read it. I highly recommend it. Arn, I want to dive into a deal, right? I know that you've closed so many deals, but I want to get into a multifamily deal that you've closed either recently or in the past, that really caused you the most headaches, but that you learned the most from. So if you can think on a deal and let us know what it looks like, how you found it, how you navigated the challenge, and how you eventually, overcame it.
Yes, great question. So, and yeah, so as an investor, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to learn from those mistakes. There's a noted syndicator, a young guy, Omar Khan, who I encourage you to reach out to, does a lot down in Atlanta. And he once said, you know, you're going to take some lumps, but you just want to live to fight another day, right? So, investors are going to make mistakes. It's just like if you were to pick 10 stocks to invest in, I can guarantee you 10 out of 10 aren't going to be winners, right? They're, if you're doing good, 8 will be winners and 1 or 2 may not be as well. So in terms of, let me go to my first deal. It was 43 units in Greenville, and I had started to develop a relationship with a local broker here over a period of about a year and a half. We looked at 4 or 5 deals. None of them were kind of correct. And he brought me a deal here in Greenville, and he gave me first crack at it, which again is about building the relationships and so on and so forth. And went to take a look at it, loved it, wrote an offer that day. Within a couple of days, we had the PSA signed, and one of the things investors often get is the so-called CoStar report, which is a detailed analysis of the property, square foot, units, age, shows rental comps, shows sales comps. And generally, if you're looking at anything multifamily, reach out to the broker involved. They can provide the CoStar report for you. So the CoStar report said it was 768 square foot units. And when I first looked at it and walked through 1 or 2 of the units, I go, well, God, it doesn't feel like 768 square feet. So anyway, we got into contract, we're doing our due diligence, and I go, I'm going to bring a tape measure because I want to measure these guys and see what they are. So I get my tape measure out, I got my pad, I'm drawing the square, and I added up, and there's 610 square feet.
Wow.
Okay. So I thought they were 768. They turned out to be about 612. And mistakes like this sometimes happen because data gets, I mean, computers are great, but once a piece of data gets entered somewhere, it just gets replicated and replicated.
Yeah.
So there was no nefarious attempt. It was just an honest mistake. But I had a real problem with it because I'm going, well, I thought I was buying 768 square foot units, and they're only 610. That's a significant difference.
I
It's
was
about
just about to
20
say,
to 20%, give or take.
big difference.
And so I then wanted to try to renegotiate. So I tried to renegotiate, and the broker basically said, "Hey, Arn, if you don't want to buy it, we got other people to buy it." And during this time, I'm talking to my partner, Brian, and he goes, "Hey, Arn, look, the units work. They may only be 610 square feet, but they work as one bedrooms. The kitchens are decent. You have a little eating area. You got a decent living room, decent bath. You got a closet. You got a bath. So it's not like they were substandard units. They actually still worked as nice one bedroom units. And I also at this time was in the middle of a mentoring program. So my mentor kind of talked me off the ledge because this is the first one I was doing. And so the failure would have been getting emotional and bailing, and fear comes up. It's your first deal. But working with Brian, my partner, and my mentor, I was kind of able to work through all of that. But I was close to pulling the plug on the deal, and it would have been a big mistake if I did. So I don't know if I've ever had any major failures, but I would say when you get into these transactions, it is a big deal. You got to gain experience. It's a lot of money. I guess the other aspect of it was on this deal, we had to raise $1.5 million.
Mm.
And we had never raised $1.5 million, right? And so we had, about $30,000 of earnest money up. It cost us about $20,000 to start with the loan. And so you kind of got to take a leap of faith that you can raise the capital and so on and so forth. And we were able to do it again through the network of relationships we had built over time. And what I would say, maybe one good piece of advice to prevent failure, some people in the multifamily space will say, find the deal and the money will come. And while there may be some truth to that, what I would encourage people to do is start talking to people, your potential investors, about multifamily. Start kind of priming the pump while you're looking for property. So really, in my mind, you're doing both. You're looking for deals, but you're also talking to potential investors, educating them about multifamily, because they kind of have to be aware of what you're doing and have some education behind them so that when you actually present them a specific deal, they're in a place where they can kind of act. So I've seen some people fail where they find the deal, but they haven't really primed the pump with the investors yet.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Very, very well said. And I'm so glad that you stuck with the deal. I mean, Greenville is an amazing market. I think there's a huge shortage of supply of apartment buildings in that market. So, and shout out to your network too for talking you off the ledge, right? It goes back again to how strong a network can be, right? In making you or in helping you make the right decisions. So
Correct. So listening to them, having a different perspective really helps. And then, of course, the other thing, and you know it too, people talk about the power of the first deal.
yes,
And how when you get over that first hurdle, the first one's the toughest
yeah,
for a variety of reasons. You don't have credibility with the broker. There's some kind of natural fear there. It's the unknown kind of holding you back. It's a mindset thing. And once you can kind of complete that first deal, now you've got some kind of street credibility with the brokers. And you now have the confidence within yourself that, yes, you can actually do this. And as you well know, there are about 12 moving pieces and all these deals that you have to kind of bring together right at the right instance to get it across the finish line. So I would say to the listeners, don't get discouraged. It took me probably 12 to 18 months to really find the first one I wanted to buy. And then since that time, things have escalated. So believe in yourself, believe in the process, just keep working it. And once you get that first one under your belt, you're going to be off and running and you won't look back.
Beautiful, beautiful. Very, very well said. Wow. Arn, I have had an amazing time talking to you. I mean, like you have a wealth of knowledge, and we haven't even gotten into the 1% of of your experience. But what I want to get a glance at, and this brings us to our second to last segment of the show, is your mindset, right? You have years of experience, and you've gone through many ups and downs, I'm sure. So, as the one question that I have for you, just to get a better idea of your mindset, is how do you keep yourself motivated to get through the challenges that you may encounter in any deal?
You understand the benefits of getting through the deal that will accrue to you. So, how do I say that better? If you look at investing as a long-term activity, as a lifelong activity, not a get rich quick scheme, but kind of a sure way to get rich, if you want to call it that. And it's not all about being rich. I mean, the other thing that I really enjoy is we buy these apartments and we make them better.
Yep.
And we provide better places for people to live. There are a lot of landlords that aren't very nice and not very considerate. And the way I look at it, people work hard for the money. They're paying you good rent. In return, they deserve a nice place to live where everything works and it's safe. So there's also that part of it too. So when you have a longer term perspective, the immediate ups and downs aren't as significant, right? Because if your vision is, where do I want to be in 5 to 10 years? I have a vision. This is where I want to be. I've seen others go this route. I've seen what it can do for them. I've seen people create a really nice life for themselves through real estate investing. I believe in it. And I have a long-term perspective that allows you to keep trudging, keep battling, even when you get discouraged. And trust me, there's discouraged. There were properties I went after I didn't get. Somebody paid more. Trust me, it was frustrating. I wasn't happy, but it wasn't like, oh, dang, well, I didn't get that one. I'm done. I'm doing something different. It just fueled the fire. Okay, I got to get a little better. Maybe I got to get a little more aggressive. I got to network more. I got to get more deals in the funnel. So if you have that long-term vision, understand it's a step-by-step process to get there. It's easier to keep on trucking even through the disappointments because you hold this vision. I don't know if you ever saw a movie, Shawshank Redemption.
Yes,
It's a
that's
great movie.
classic.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So that guy went through hell, okay? And he kept talking about Zihuatanejo, right? He had this vision, right? So his vision of Zihuatanejo allowed him to survive
Well
the
said.
horrible stuff he went through. Or another way people describe it is, what's your why?
Mm-hmm. There you
What are
go.
you doing this for? Are you doing it to provide your kids a better life than you had, perhaps? Whatever your motivation is, keep that in the forefront. Then this other stuff, it's just day-to-day noise, and you just keep trucking. And as you have success, that muscle that keeps you going just gets stronger and stronger, right? So as you see success, as you get that positive feedback, you're even more motivated and determined to keep plugging. And so it's gradual, you just stick with it. For me, I've always been fairly determined. I kind of consider myself resilient. Things happen, and you just still got, nobody's going to care, right? Nobody's going to really save you. It's up to you. Like I always say, I'm the captain of my ship, right? So it's up to me to create the life I want. And I think if you take that perspective, it's easier to put up with the nonsense that you got to go through to get there. Yeah.
Love that. Very, very well said. Whew, our listeners are going to enjoy this episode. I have definitely enjoyed our conversation, Arn. Now, let's dive into the final questions here. And this is all focused on you and your goals for the rest of the year. And um, when this episode comes out, it's going to help our listeners bring value to you and your business. So,
Thank you.
what are your goals for the rest of this year? We have 3 months left. I know you've already accomplished a ton, but what do you have cooking for the next 3 months?
I'd probably like to do one more deal before the end of the year. So I would say that's kind of the goal. We just recently completed a fairly large acquisition in Greenville, 281 units, maybe about 2 weeks ago. So there's a lot of work involved in getting that one. So find another deal. And then I think the second goal would be get control of this new property we bought, make sure we're communicating properly with the property manager, make sure the property manager is executing our game plan. We're going to have to start renovations. And as often the case when you acquire a new asset, and I know you're looking at something now, oftentimes you have to improve the tenant base, and that takes work. There are tenants who haven't been paying, and the current owner kind of lets it go. So often you kind of have to re-educate your tenant base that paying rent is not an optional activity, right? So I'd say those are the two big goals. Find one more deal and make sure this takeover, this new property goes. So that's the goals.
Beautiful, beautiful. And what is one person that can help you accomplish that goal? One thing or one person that can help you accomplish it?
Um, yeah, I'm happy to take help from wherever it gets. I think it's not necessarily, well, I rely a lot on my partner, Brian Walsh. And so without him, everything probably falls apart. So he's probably a critical component to all this. And then the other thing is, just keep doing the activities you're doing, right? It's kind of not rocket science. Just keep doing the right things. I kind of believe in karma, right? If you do the right things, the world's going to kind of reward you. So that's kind of the approach I take. Not so much focused on the results as maybe the activities, right? Focus on the activities you need to do that will lead to results in the future.
Beautiful, beautiful. Arn, I have had an amazing time. We're coming to the end of our show here. Thanks again so much for coming on. Final question I have for you is, where can people connect with you? Guys, if you're looking to invest passively in multifamily, or if you're looking to connect with Arn, please reach out to him. He is an amazing resource. He's an amazing person. He is an experienced investor. As you know, he's a proven operator. Arn, where can people connect with you?
Sure. So my website is investwithspark, SPARK.com. Email is arn@investwithspark.com. And I'm all over social media, either as Arn Cenedella or Spark Investment. So reach out, happy to help. The other thing as well is wanting to work with investors who want to invest passively, I'm always looking for partners. And so I'm happy to partner with people who are trying to get into the active space. People help me get into the active space. So I'm going to play it forward and help others who maybe have a little less experience get into the active space. So kind of wherever I can help, I'm happy to do so. Just reach out to me.
Beautiful. And I'll put all of Arn's information, link in the show notes. Guys, it's been Albertini Colin, Arn the Godfather, Cenedella, signing off.